off switch? Airplane.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Were you in that picture?
Yeah. Is that still on?
That could be me.
No, the applicant does not. I know. No vote on the minutes. Oh. Yeah, it is.
All right, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order of the Planning Commission. First order of business is a roll call.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. Chair Wilson.
Present.
Vice Chair Kurth.
Here.
Commissioner Huber and Commissioner Porter are absent this evening. Commissioner Dew.
Present.
Thank you.
Our first order of business will be doing the invocation and pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Kurth and Commissioner Dew. Would you please rise?
Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to meet here today. Thank you for the freedoms that we are given to live in this country and to meet our communities and cities. Bless this meeting so that the decisions that are made of this city and its
All right, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes, but we are lacking 2 commissioners, so I'm going to go ahead and recommend that we continue that to our January meeting. And moving on to agenda item number 1.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Item number 1 is case PLN 15-00027. It is a specific plan amendment to the Desert Gateway specific plan to redesignate property from light industrial to public utility and to conditionally permit recycling centers within the public utility land use district. This also includes a conditional use permit, site plan, and proposed mitigated negative declaration to allow for the expansion of an existing recycling center to include composting and waste processing facilities. This is located at 17000 Abbey Lane. Burtec Waste Industries is requesting the approval of the existing Victor Valley Materials Recovery Facility to include the processing of municipal waste, construction waste, green waste, and food waste. The proposed complex will span over 4 parcels. The first parcel, which is located north of the existing MRF, is on 5 acres. It will consist of an aerated static pile composting facility containing 12 covered composting zones with concrete pads and walls. It will also include a mixed waste processing facility. It will operate within a 50,000 square foot building, which will sort mixed waste and take the unusable residual, which will be transferred to the landfill. It also includes construction and demolition waste processing facility, which will consist of a 16,000 square foot building. Parcel 2, where the existing MRF is located on 13 acres, will retain its current operations. Will also have a scale house added to it. Also an organic management area where the curing and screening and processing of the green waste will occur. It will also consist of some storm drain basins to mitigate the stormwater runoff. Parcels 3 and 4 are located east of Bimini Lane, and those will consist of parking lots for the employees. These facilities are needed and will assist with meeting the state's goal of recycling of 75% and waste reduction. It will also help businesses required to recycle organic waste as required by Assembly Bill 1826. And it will also assist developers with diverting 50% of their construction waste as required by the California Green Code. There's been 2 additional memos that staff has presented to the commission. If the Planning Commission chooses to approve this, we ask that you, in your motion, include the modification to the engineering conditions as stipulated in the one of the memos, and also add to the record the agency comments and responses that were included in the second memo. And with that, staff recommends approval as conditioned, and we're available if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff? I'll open the public comments. Okay, so I would like to go ahead and open up public comment. Just a note of housekeeping: if you wish to speak to any item that's on the agenda tonight, if you'd please fill out a white card and give that to the clerk. I do have one card for item number 1, Mr. Joe Vale, if you'd like to come forward. Applicant is not required to fill out a white card. I was just informed. Sorry.
I didn't hear what you said, but as you said, my name is Joe Vale. I live at 16993 Abbey Lane, Victorville, which is right across the street from the existing facility. As far as recycling, I've been in favor of recycling since I was third grade, 8 years old, and recycle newspapers and bottles and cans and things to earn money. And I'm not against recycling at all. However, since this facility moved in, we now have rats, cockroaches, some of the people who are professional bug people want to call them water bugs, but whatever you want to call it, these are things that did not exist prior to this MRF building being built. Our family has owned this property on Abbey Lane since back in the 1890s. My wife and I are the third people of the family to live there. We still own about 17 acres, sold a little bit to a guy here a while back, but we still own almost 18 acres there. And until this came in, we never had a cockroach or a water bug, never had a rat, never had the smell from that, which right now the plant doesn't smell that bad. But my concern is bringing in food waste. I'm not against the concrete waste thing. I think that's very good to do. I am not in favor of the composting. We already have a composting facility down on Shea Road. I don't know why we need another one in town right there. And that composting stuff will smell. If you've ever been down there to Shea Road, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I do not at all agree with bringing a food reprocessing plant in there, because when you bring that in, you will have any and every kind of vermin that wants to eat that food. Now, unless they keep this thing totally enclosed, where no food has ever escaped out, you're going to have more problems than what you got right now. And the gentleman sitting back here, I can't remember his name right now, but he came out a few months ago because I was complaining about more cockroaches, more bugs. And he came out and said, well, they're not coming from the plant. Baloney. Those things never existed there before this MRF went in. And now that the MRF is there, we have them. Now, I don't care where they came from. Came from an apartment house in town or some else's place, I don't know. But they came into the trash and been processed in the trash, and now we have them. And I'm not in favor of that kind of stuff. You want to put the concrete thing in? All in favor of that, but not this food waste thing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to agenda item number 1?
Good evening. My name is Gary Kuntz. I'm the Facility Project Manager for Burtech Waste Industries. First of all, I'd like to compliment your staff. They've done an excellent job working with us on the conditions of approval to make this a good, solid project. In terms of the conditions of approval, we accept all conditions as submitted, including the amended conditions presented by staff tonight. We ask that you approve the project as recommended by staff. I have with me tonight John Davis, the Executive Director of the Joint Powers Authority, and Steve Cano, our Director of Recycling and Organics for Burtech Waste Industries. And the three of us would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You just heard from I'll refer to as the complainant regarding his concerns. What is your response?
The facility operates under a solid waste facility permit issued by the San Bernardino County Local Enforcement Agency. That's based upon what's called a transfer processing report that basically is an operations plan. That includes vector control, odor control, all sorts of nuisance controls. The LEA inspects this facility every month, at least once a month. They're required, and they can come on site anytime. We have never received, to the best of my knowledge, any citations or notices of violation from the local enforcement agency for vectors. I can have probably John Davis respond to that also.
John?
I'm John Davis. I administer the Mojave Desert and Mountain Recycling Authority. We're a 9-member joint powers authority, including the city of Victorville and the town of Apple Valley, who actually own the existing facility. And Gary's correct that this is inspected monthly by the county environmental health. The local enforcement agency is a state designation of the power to enforce the permit conditions. I believe in the what's it been 20 years now that we've operated, there was one indication of excess litter that had blown off-site in 20 years. We did ask when Mr. Vail indicated that he had cockroaches on his property, we did ask environmental health to thoroughly inspect this facility, and they found no indication of any cockroach infestation on the property. I think Mr. Vail agreed to allow them to come onto his property and look at the cockroaches that he had. They did find they were waterborne, as Mr. Vail indicated, and would not have originated in material delivery to the existing facility. The existing facility is designed really to just take in dry recyclable material. We do get occasional organic material. The new facility to the north, that is planned to have any receipt and processing of the food inside an enclosed building and then put into a covered composting system immediately, so to minimize any kind of vector release or odors. So, but as far as the existing facility, Gary's correct. It's inspected monthly. The new facility would also be inspected monthly. And any kind of complaints from citizens are taken very seriously, and we try to move on them as quickly as possible. So,
I have 3 questions. So the environment and safety people not only went to the plant to inspect you guys, but also went to this gentleman's property as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and their findings, is there something in writing regarding their findings?
Yes.
Do you have that document, or was
I
it
don't have
submitted?
it. I don't have it with me, but we have a written report from the environmental health inspector, as well as all the monthly reports. I could probably download them and get them to you.
Okay. And also, do you happen to know the population of the area in which the site exists? What's the population?
In the immediate, probably, I mean, Mr. Vale, I believe, and his wife, there's one other occupied house, I think another couple, and then one house that I'm not sure if it's occupied or not. It appears to be a rental house, and property comes goes. So there are 3 residents. He's within the immediate adjacent to the
10?
property. That's it, yeah. And I should also tell you that Mr. Vale and I agreed that we would do a treatment of the cockroaches that we did find, that he found on his property, and irrespective of their origin, and he agreed to sign a release to allow us to come in and do that. So,
Okay.
so nonetheless, despite the origin, we took care of that.
So is that something of a remedy?
If there had been an infestation on the property, we would have acted really aggressively. There's vector control service that comes in monthly as well, or monthly, is it more frequently? There's a regular vector control service that inspects our building.
Is that quarterly or?
No, I believe it's monthly.
Oh, monthly. Okay. Do you come under EPA at all?
Under
EPA.
We're under Cal EPA. The Cal Recycle is an agency of California Environmental Protection Agency. The U.S. EPA, I don't believe, has any direct regulatory authority over it.
The agency that does regulate you, do they issue out ratings?
Ratings? No. They issue monthly inspection, and then if there are deficiencies, then we address those deficiencies. But I think in 20 years, having one litter problem is probably a pretty good record.
I just would make a suggestion in the future. Is anything like a document regarding their inspection? Is it within the list of documents I have? Is it here? I didn't recall seeing it.
I don't know that it was requested, but I have everything electronically, and certainly the inspection, we could provide that pretty momentarily. So.
I would mention that Cal Recycle did comment, and they never mentioned any current deficiency with the property.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'd like to clarify some things that this gentleman just had to say. Concerning one complaint in 20 years concerning trash. If you go out along Stoddard Wells Road, you will find trash that is blown all over that place. You go along Abbey Lane and Bimini, anywhere in that area, you will find trash blowing out of that recycling plant almost, well, I would say probably twice a week. I see people out going from the Burtec plant out collecting trash around the neighborhood. And each time I see them out there, I ask them, I say, would you please pick up the trash along my fence? I don't ask them to go in my yard to pick up the trash, which I have to do for them. If I were to file a complaint every time I saw trash around this, you'd have a complaint a mile high. I just don't believe in doing stuff like that. I try to work with the people. But regarding the bugs, this gentleman came out, made me sign a form denying any claim at all that they brought the bugs in, not their fault, but we're going to spray it for you one time and one time only. That's one time. They do not spray anything on my property to kill their bugs. Now, they claim they spray their facility once a month or something like that. That's great. All for it. Spray it all the time. I have to go to Home Depot and buy a home spray, and I go around spraying my own property, trying to keep the bugs down because they're bugs. During the last year, one night I was sleeping and felt something crawling on my face. It was one of their bugs. Now, I don't appreciate their bugs, and I don't appreciate the fact that he's trying to make out like he's taking care of all that stuff. They have not. And the trash that blows out of that place, you can fill a trash truck just about every day. Well, that's over-exaggeration. A couple of dumpsters at least. And to bring in additional food to be processed, unless this is a totally enclosed area. Now, I worked in a Sunkist limited products plant when I was a kid. And I've seen stainless steel tanks where you can process things, keep the odors all under control and everything like that. And those things are doable. But from what I've seen, if they operate the food process like they do the trash recycling process, it's going to be nothing but a mess. Now, we have on our ranch, we have cows and horses and goats and sheep and dogs and I don't know what all. And they all poop. And the poop smells, but it smells like a farm. It doesn't smell like rotten garbage. And I can take the smell of a farm, but the smell of the garbage I don't like, and the rodents and the bugs that are brought in by that, I do not like. So if you guys can come up with something and say, okay, we'll make them spray all around. Now, by the way, on Bimini, the two properties that Burtech now owns, they own them because the owners got furious with the vermin that they were getting on their property after the building of this facility. And they raised so much cane with Burtech, they finally bought their property. The last one was Sean. The guy on the corner still owns the property. I know I can't remember his name right now. Justin. And then a gentleman at the other end owns a tow truck. And those two folks still live there. And then I live on the south side of Abbey Lane. And then up to the east, just behind the trash truck barn, is another facility that's owned by some folks that's a housing place. So there are basically 4 families that live in that general area. But I'm against the bugs. And I realize bugs are good for catching fish, but I'm not interested in catching those bugs to go out and try to catch fish, and I don't want them in my house. So whatever it's worth, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you. It's just so frustrating to hear people say things like it's all being cared for, it's all cool and everything. It's not.
Sir, before you leave, sir, what would you suggest as a remedy? It can be one thing or 2 things or 3 things. What would you suggest would remedy?
To remedy the current problem?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been in their facility a long time to see how they actually handle their trash now. Years ago, I knew the first manager. When they were first building the building, I actually assisted them in doing things like keeping eye on their equipment and things. But over the last several years, I don't know who's there now. But maybe bringing the trash in, processing it more quickly, maybe bringing it through some kind of a irradiation deal that would kill the bugs or something. There are many different things available in society today to do all kinds of bug extermination, but I'm not sure what they would want to do. But something needs to be done to kill off the bugs. And if they want to come spray my property, I'd be great for that. If they want to pick up the trash daily, I'd be great with that. But as far as the recycling, I'm all in favor of recycling. Don't misunderstand me. I believe in recycling everything. Glass, cans, bottles, whatever. I'm in favor of all that. But I just think it needs to be done in a way where you're not going to get the stink and you're not going to get the vermin. Now, if you go out and look at Shea Road, you'll find, I guarantee you, those green composting thing they got out there, once in a while it catches on fire, just because of the nature of composting. And if they take all the composting out there, why have it on Abbey Lane? Take it out there. If they want to do the food processing, take it out there. There's nobody living out there. You got the sewage plant out there. You got all this other out there. Put that out there. Concrete, blacktop, recycling, I'm all in favor of it. But I'm just not in favor of something that's going to bring in more bugs. Now, how to do it? They all have all kinds of sprays. Nowadays, you can't use DDT. Everybody's afraid of DDT, but DDT has probably saved the lives of millions of people and saved millions more if they'd use it. But all the environmental wackos get crazy on things like that and cause us to have to do silly things. So I'm not sure what to tell you. I know that the little home protection thing that we use does help. I've killed a lot of bugs with that stuff, and it does help. If they wanted to come spray my property every month when they spray theirs, I wouldn't be against that. I'd open the gates and let them in. But they made me sign a paper the last time around basically saying that they denied any responsibility, any liability. They're only doing this out of the goodness of their heart type thing. And I said, fine, whatever it is, spray it. But as far as what to tell you, I don't know.
Thank you.
Gary Coons, Burtech. A couple of responses. First of all, our permits require us to take care of any litter that blows off our property regardless of where it goes. If the gentleman would like to allow us on his property, we will take care of his litter. That is a requirement of our facility permit dealing with the local enforcement agency. Can you put the site plan up? Just a couple of things on the, that one, yes. In terms of food waste, first of all, the facility we're looking at is completely different than the American Organics facility. This is a fully enclosed area. We've got an actual fully enclosed building for the receipt of food waste. We understand that there can be some problems with it. Actually, we are operating an identical system down at our West Valley facility in Fontana. We've been operating for over a year now, that you're more than welcome to come down and tour and see exactly how these things work. We've never had any odor complaints. One of Scott's people went down there a couple days ago, stood there on the street, took a big whiff, and all you smell is the organic smell of compost. And what he smelled was actually the actual composting facility is much further away. It's about 500 feet from the street. Between that and the street, we actually store finished compost. So what he was really smelling was the actual finished compost. The food waste, typically food waste is brought in and processed immediately. One of our conditions is we do not let food waste sit around, because if it does sit around for a long time, it can develop an odor and vector problem. So we process the material immediately, or within 24 hours of its receipt. If it sits at night, and we can't do it until the next morning, we are required to cover that food waste with green waste to control any odors, liquids, anything like that. We discovered about food waste, there is quite a bit of liquid that can be generated from it. So this building will be designed with a sump in it to basically collect this material so nothing can leak out. It is fully enclosed. We'll be doing the mixing and processing of that with the green waste in that building. The bunker system, we use Gore-Tex covers on these. They're approved by the South Coast Air Quality Management District. We discussed it with the Mojave District. They basically, once you mix it with food waste, get it in the aerobic digestion system, it really, there is no odor. So, we can show you these. You can stand there and smell them, stand next to them, and you really don't smell anything. So that whole area is totally different from what's going on in the other compost facility. Another thing to consider is if we do use the other facility, we have no control over it. We can have them deny us access to it. They can raise rates. We have no control over it at all. Having it here, the JPA and the cities can control their own future and destiny on this. Any other questions I can answer?
Well, I was going to ask you the process for your organics, but you kind of explained that to me, how it comes in and gets processed and drained out and covered.
Okay, right now the material that we're looking at is basically coming from restaurants, different institutions. It's not coming from houses by any means. We collect it in our standard front load collection vehicles. We bring it into the building. There's a recipe for compost that we pretty much mastered that recipe. The most you can put in food waste mixing with green waste is 50%. We much prefer a little bit less than that. So material comes in here. We pull out any big pieces of plastic, things of that sort. We would then mix this with green waste, mix it up, grind it, then move it by bucket loader into the bunkers. Each bunker is 100 feet long and 26 feet wide. It's got two trench drains underneath where any liquids that are generated by the material that don't stay in the material drain out. They go into a sump. Those are pumped into two holding tanks. The holding tanks, we then use that liquid as new moisture for the next batch of compost. So it's a complete recycle system. The other use of these trench drains is for aeration. It's a positive flow system. We have a 2-horsepower fan on the rear of each of these things. We blow air in. That creates an aerobic system and does the composting for us. Everything's regulated by computer for temperature and oxygen control, and it turns the fans on and off as it needs to maintain a temperature. Required to maintain a temperature of 131 degrees for at least 3 days to kill pathogens, weed seeds, anything like that. Now that's a very specific requirement out of the Title 14, Chapter 3.1 of the California Code of Regulations that deals with composting. For the first 6 bunkers are our phase 1 bunkers. That's where the real active composting happens. Once we create one of these batches, it sits there and just composts for 4 weeks. We do not turn it during that 4 weeks. We monitor it. We keep track of it, but it stays there for 4 weeks. At the end of 4 weeks, it's pretty much composted. We then take it out and put it in one of the next 3 bunkers, which is the phase 2. That kind of finishes off the compost. It stays there for 2 weeks. At that point, we move it into the 3rd bunker, which is phase 3, where it's pretty much finished compost. It's drying out a little bit more. It's cooling off. At the end of that 2 weeks, so there's an 8-week process, we would then move that finished compost over into this area here where we'd stage it. That's where we screen it. get it ready for sale. So it's a very simple system. So you're welcome to come down to Fontana and see the facility that's identical to this.
When you say it's for sale, is that being sold at site or is it being taken off site for sale?
It can be either. At Fontana, we have people, we have ranches that buy it by the transfer truckload. We've got nurseries that use it, landscapers, just the private citizens bring in a pickup truck and we'll load a pickup truck for them and they'll take it off. The material we have is really high quality. It's basically an organic material. It's OMRI, which is, what's OMRI stand for? Keep forgetting. It's a certified organic product.
And that whole the 8-week process is all being done in the enclosed building, and then at the end of the process it comes out.
Yes.
Part of the reason, or this facility will help you guys maintain compliance with California state law, if I'm understanding that, of
Absolutely.
waste reduction.
That's the primary reason we're doing this. The state is now requiring composting of food waste, and they're very specific on that in 1826. The rules have also increased from 50% to 75% the recovery rates that we need to see. AB 939 hit the 50% rate. These new regulations are going to 75. So we're looking for more and more stuff in there. Food waste, it's all based, diversion is based on weight. So food waste is pretty much all water. So it's a very heavy material. So it's something that if we get out of the waste stream, we can achieve those goals. The mixed waste processing facility, that is a second phase. Right now we're doing the commingled recycling, which is what our customers are putting in their cans, and then we're sorting that out. The next step is to just touch all the trash and pull everything else out that no one else is.
So you have a minimal amount going out to the landfill.
The goal ultimately is zero waste. In this
So
facility,
that's construction, green, all
yeah,
of it.
we have the construction demolition, which, the economy's coming back. You're seeing more and more home building. You need your construction waste management plans. This is where we can guarantee that you get that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to follow up. You heard the complainant, his references to various things that are a nuisance. So, as I had asked him of a remedy, I'm asking of you, are you willing to provide a remedy?
We will definitely work with him. Now we understand the issues. We fully will work with him and make sure everyone is happy. We like to make our neighbors happy.
Because one of the things I want to share with you is the fact that the city of Victorville has approximately 125,000 people. Even in a community as small as 10 people, that's important to the city of Victorville. Every person is important. So I'm pleased to hear that you're willing to work with the complainant. And if we are to do follow-ups, I would suspect that we have reached a happy medium here.
Yes, I've discussed this with Mr. Cano, our director, and he definitely is in agreement. We will work with him and make everybody happy.
That's good to hear.
I mean, everybody in the city is our customer, and we like our customers happy.
This is a significant industry, and do you have any competition? Does Bertec have any competition, either in the state of California, the county, or?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's plenty of competition out there.
No, because the way I see it is that you guys are the giant, and he's just one person. So
if you compare us to Waste Management, Inc., we're not very big. There are many large companies out there.
I'll take your word for it, sir, and thank you for your testimony
Thank you.
today.
Question. I've not seen the plans of this facility, but I'm talking about these bunkers. Is my understanding that this is a totally enclosed building with all the bunkers? The bunkers are all enclosed?
Can we pull up the slide of the picture of the facility? There it is.
It'd have to be the site plan. This is the mixed waste processing building. This is the enclosed food waste receiving building. There are 12 bunkers. They're 100 feet long, 26 feet wide, with side walls of 4 feet.
But no top.
They're covered with a Gore-Tex cover.
Okay. So you're talking about fans, vent fans or air fans, whatever. Where are these venting to? The atmosphere or just another part of the building?
We have to control to make sure there's nothing coming out of that building in terms of odors.
Okay. And you say you have this same thing in Fontana?
Yes.
I'd like
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to agenda item number 1? Being none, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to recommend to City Council approval of a mitigated negative declaration, the attachment B, with a mitigation monitoring and report progress or reporting program, attachment C. Adopt resolution number P15-055, attachment number E, or recommending to City Council approval of the conditional use permit. Adopt resolution number P15-056, attachment F, recommending City Council approval of the site plan, and adopt resolution P-15062, attachment G, recommending City Council approval of the Gateway or Desert Gateway specific plan amendment, in addition to add the additional item to number 1 that we received this evening of the additional text and clarification. Anything additional?
And accepting the comments and responses as part of
Accepting the
the
commission.
final initial study.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Chair Wilson, a second by Vice Chair Kurth. I'll call for the vote. All in favor to send this to the City Council for approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? This will be forwarded on to the City Council for approval.
Moving on to agenda item number 2.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. Agenda item number 2 is planning case number PLN 15-00038. This is a vesting tentative tract modification and time extension with a mitigated negative declaration for 8 primarily contiguous tract maps that consist of a total of 589 single-family lots. This is located in the general vicinity of Mesa Street and Mesa Linda Road, just north of the California Aqueduct within the Golden Triangle planning area. This proposal includes a 3-year time extension to all the maps in question, which would push their new expiration date up to November of 2018. Currently, they all have an expiration date in early 2016. The proposal also includes a modification to add an approximately 2-acre park site that's centrally located within the tract boundaries that will serve all the residents of the area. Staff analyzed this proposal in accordance with the single-family design guidelines and found that as it was approved in 2005, it did meet some of the requirements of the single-family design guidelines, including cul-de-sacs and curvilinear streets. It wouldn't meet guidelines if it was a brand new tract today. However, the applicant attempted to offset those nonconformance issues by adding the park site and deleting a major thoroughfare from the center of the tract, which will reduce the amount of traffic that goes through and slow speeds for the residential neighborhood. Additionally, there is a varying width LMAD along the eastern boundary of the property, abutting the Oro Grande Wash. That is above and beyond typical LMAD improvements. That includes a walking path and may include amenities. The final design of those amenities will be done through the site plan process if this proposal is approved. Based upon the measures the applicant took to offset the nonconformance issue, staff finds that the proposal is in general conformance with the single-family design guidelines. Taking into consideration the map status, they have been through approximately 6 plan checks prior to their expiration and are currently in plan check. They include final maps, street improvement plans, so they're pretty far along in the design process and what they've done. With those, taking those into consideration, staff supports the proposal as conditioned, as well as the additional condition that was, or condition addition that was added for the fire department access lanes. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
And the applicant is aware of the additional condition.
Yes, they are.
All right, I'll go ahead and like to open up public comment on agenda item number 2. If anyone wishes to speak to agenda item number 2. The applicant? Don't need a card if you're the applicant.
I think Tesla's got my.
Okay.
I'll give you your card, though. My name is Derek Hicks. I'm with Argent Management, and I represent the applicant. Wanted to, first of all, thank staff for working with us on this. I know it's been several months that we've been talking about this, and it's been a little back and forth, but I think what we arrived at is good for the city and good for us. And we are good with the conditions as presented. And as we discussed over the last several working days with staff, I think we're good. And I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Kind of make a meeting of the minds there with
We've always looked at this project as a master plan. We've done several up here in the past, and we did several maps, but we did want to treat it as a more of a master plan feel. Hence why we had thrown in the linear park along the top of the Oro Grande Wash with some amenities there, and several lot sizes, all varying in lot width and so forth to create a better feel for different types of product and so forth. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. My name is Kevin Simon. I live at 12656 Bar Harbor, which resides over in the neighborhood as well. I am excited about the new project that is coming in my neighborhood. I guess the one question that I do have, being that there's only one entrance into our community, which is Eucalyptus, is there any plans to have any other access into the community?
Yes, there are requirements for 2 points of access, a minimum for every single track that goes in. They will be minimum of 26 feet in width if they're not required street improvements surrounding the property. So street improvements surrounding the property will be half-width improvements. Any required access for secondary access has a minimum paved width of 26 feet for secondary access. So all the new tracks will require two points of access.
Okay, so basically like a eucalyptus off of 395, that's like our main entrance into our community. And I'm looking at the borders of like Smoke Tree and back into Mesa Linda. Will there be an entrance on the front side of 395 or possibly the back side?
The conditions require Topaz Road paved north to existing pavement, Mesa Linda Street paved north to existing pavement, and Mesa Street paved west to existing pavement. So that will at least be where it's offside a minimum of 26 feet in width. So it will be paved access. It may not be full street improvements, but it will be paved access.
And if you would please just fill out a card and give that to the clerk, I'd appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak to agenda item number 2? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to adopt the mitigated negative declaration with monitoring and reporting program for the project, and adopt resolutions P-15-057, 058, 063, and 064 approving tentative track map modifications, 3-year time extensions for the noted tracks included in PLN 15-00038, subject to all the conditions of approval, and adopt resolution P-15-065, 066, 067, and 068 approving tentative track map condition modifications and the 3-year time extension regarding case PLN 15-00038, subject to all the conditions of approval, including the added fire condition found in the memo of December 9th, 2015.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Dew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that has been approved with Commissioner Porter absent, Commissioner Huber absent.
And moving on to agenda item number 3.
Thank you, Chairman Wilson. Item number 3 is case PLN 15-00039. It is a site plan and conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a new vehicle sales facility with an environmental exemption. This is located at the northeast corner of Civic Drive and Valley Park Lane. This site was previously approved and slated for a Saturn dealership in 2008. Is now being proposed as a Ram Truck Center, which will include a approximately 7,200 square foot building. The proposal meets all of our development code requirements, and staff recommends approval as conditioned. We're available if you have any questions.
Questions? Then I'll go ahead and open up public comment for agenda item number 3, if anyone wishes to speak to this item. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring that back to the commission. Just clarification, they won't be doing any repair on this. That'll all be done at Victorville Motors, I believe I read.
That is correct.
Well, I will go ahead and make a motion to find that the project is categorically exempt from environmental assessment. Adopt resolution P-15-059, approving the site plan portion of case number PLN 15-00039, subject to the attached conditions of approval, and adopt resolution P-15-060, approving the conditional use permit portion of case PLN 15-00039, subject to the attached conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Chair Wilson, a second by Commissioner Dew. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that project has been approved with Commissioner Porter and Commissioner Huber both absent.
And moving to agenda item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda number 4 is DEV 15-10. It's being proposed by the City of Victorville in coordination with our City Attorney's Office. This is in response to the state's new legislation, which is going to regulate the medical marijuana industry. And if a city does not have specific prohibitions in effect when the laws go into effect, then they will, in effect, have to allow it for it. So we need to tighten up our code. We currently have a full prohibition on the processing, sale, everything of marijuana, but we don't specifically say cultivation, mobile dispensing, or delivery. So we're adding that language to the code, and we're recommending that you recommend approval of this to the City Council.
Questions for staff? I will go ahead and open up public comment to agenda item number 4, if anyone wishes to speak to that item. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the commission.
I had one quick question, just curiosity. What would happen if a city or jurisdiction did not move forward and tighten up their ordinance? Once this law passed, would those cities have a chance to go back and amend their ordinance, or do they forevermore fall under the state guidelines?
They could go in and amend it, but anybody could come in and apply for it and be granted it in the meantime based on the state's regulations, ordinances.
And I'll make the recommendation that the City Council find the code amendment exempt pursuant to CEQA, and adopt Resolution P-15061, recommending the City Council enact the attached ordinance of Development 1510, imposing an express ban on marijuana cultivation, marijuana processing, marijuana delivery, marijuana mobile dispensing, and marijuana dispensaries in the city.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Kurth, a second by Commissioner Dew, to recommend approval to the City Council to change this ordinance, this code. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that will go to the City Council for approval with Commissioner Porter absent and Commissioner Huber absent.
And agenda item number 5.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. Agenda item number 5 is planning case number PLN 15-00020. This is a tentative parcel map to allow for the creation of 2 parcels from an existing single parcel, as well as an associated site plan that will allow for the phased development of 2 multi-tenant commercial manufacturing buildings located just north of Bear Valley Road on Industrial Road on the east side, and it's south of and abutting the Sherwin-Williams plant. The proposed site plan and associated tentative parcel map are proposed in order to allow for the development of approximately 27,000 total square feet of building area. This will be within 2 phases. Phase 1 will include an approximately 14,000 square foot building that include the parking specifically for that building, as well as all perimeter landscaping around the site, including that abutting Industrial Boulevard. Phase 2 would be the remaining building, an approximately 13,000 square foot building. It will fill in its required parking that's needed, as well as any interior landscaping that's needed for that portion. A similar version of this site plan was approved in September of 2008. However, that approval has since expired, and this constitutes a new approval with many of the similar attributes of the previous approval. This proposal meets all the standard development code requirements, including setbacks, building height, lot coverage, landscaping. Additionally, it is in conformance with the commercial design guidelines for building design, site design, for the reasons noted in the staff report, which would include varying roof heights on the buildings, a multitude of materials, and site design includes enhanced landscaping, additional trees, things such as that. There is one issue that the applicant has noted to staff, and that would be an easement issue. Specifically, condition number 20 of the site plan requires an easement area, which you can see on either page 485 or 491 of your agenda. The easement area is on the southern portion of the property, just north of the alley. Right now, it is called out as gravel. This easement is on site. It's on the private property, but it's an easement for the benefit of the Sherwin-Williams plant to the north. The applicant has proposed to have this as gravel. However, staff has required it to be paved. This is a requirement from code, specifically section 16-3.21050. Section C notes that required improvements, all off-street parking areas, and any access driveway area used for access thereto is required to be paved. This alleyway would serve secondary access to the subject site, so it would be required to be paved under staff's interpretation of code. With the exception of that one condition, staff is aware that the applicant is supportive of the remaining conditions of approval on the project, and staff supports the approval of the proposal as conditioned.
Questions? Currently, looking at the picture on site, the aerial shot down, it looks like the access to the south of the site is currently paved or partially paved.
Yes, there are existing improvements, and the easement area in question is in addition to the standard alleyway width. It would actually be on the property owner's property. That was there because of the trucks and the machinery they use to get into the Sherwin-Williams facility. It's my understanding of why that easement is in place.
All right, I'll go ahead and open up public comment for agenda item number 5.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. My name is Richard Gottlieb. I'm one of the owners of the property. I just want to say this first phase will be totally occupied by the owners of the building. So it'll be fully occupied, and there's just a lot of owner pride in the project, and so I very much am trying to be conscious of the landscaping and the way the building looked. And I'm certainly open to your comments if there's anything on that, but we've really tried to meet the city's guidelines and really try to make an attractive-looking project. As far as the easement to the south, the roadway to the south is paved, and it's the roadway that Sherwin-Williams has been using for years to access that entrance to their property. So, and we've even trying to get the easement, get Sherwin-Williams to get rid of the easement. We even K-railed off their easement area and stuck them just to the road, just so we could prove that they didn't need to use it. And in fact, that was in place for at least a month, and there was no problem them accessing their property. The reason they never gave it up is just because they're a huge company and they're very difficult to deal with. And after over a year of trying and even dealing with the plant manager and actually having good relations with them, I was unable to get anywhere. He even apologized to me. He just said it's a big company and he just wasn't able to get that one across the line. Not that they ever said they wouldn't. We were never able to get anywhere with them. So we designed the project to not beyond that. Otherwise, we'd have some of the parking lot come down further to the south and have a little bit more possible building area, a little bit more parking. So we forego that. The problem is with the paving it totally makes the street 15 feet wider than it actually needs to be. So for one, I don't think it'll be very attractive. It'll be a huge extra area that's not needed. And because it's not needed, it could very well encourage trucks to come there and park. Truck drivers that get there too early. And it's not, we're going to keep it totally flat and open, so because it is their easement and it is their right-of-way. So the gravel, we kind of felt like they'd still be able to drive over it if they really wanted to, but we didn't want to encourage parking. And also I just felt that we could make it more attractive with some kind of gravel or other kind of thing than just a solid, piece of concrete. But I also have the architect with me, and he can speak more to that if you guys have any questions. But we're willing to work with the city and just try to make a great project and make it look attractive.
A question I have is, looking at your plan, that you guys have an access point on that same side?
Yes, we will have an access point on the southern road. Yeah.
But then you'll have still 15 feet of gravel that they're going to have to drive across to get onto your property?
Oh, well, no, that'll be totally paved. There'll be kind of, not a bridge, but there'll be paving that'll cut through the gravel. But it'll all be zero elevation, so there'll be no curb. There'll be nothing to stop. So if the truck really wanted to drive over the easement area, they could. There'd be nothing stopping them, and it would just go flat from the gravel to the entrance road, everything, really. I mean, right now, the easement area is dirt and always has been, and is not really even particularly flat, so it's not really, they don't use it now because the trucks won't stay on the pavement.
That makes, in seeing, in ours it's page 491, he pointed out to me where it now makes a little more sense, because I was looking at
no, we cut across it. Yes,
we section of gravel with a piece
good
of
question.
asphalt going
Good
across
question.
it.
But just so you realize, there's no there'll be a zero curb. The gravel will be at the same level, and the entrance to our property will be at the same level. So still, if they for some reason wanted to use the easement, they could. We're not going to be blocking it.
And you guys would be responsible for maintaining that?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, there's going to be owner occupied, and the architect, they did mention, they said one thing they didn't like about gravel is that if a truck did go over it, it would kick gravel up around. First of all, we'll be maintaining it, but the architect also had some ideas of bigger gravel and also spraying stuff on it that kept it in place. But either way, I'm going to be maintaining it no matter what.
Okay. What is staff's thoughts in regards to gravel idea?
Staff would still have reservations about gravel, even if it were had the material on top or use bigger stones, just from a maintenance and longevity standpoint. If there's concerns about parking, we wouldn't be opposed to it being striped to indicate no parking, or the measures if it was paved, and then we wouldn't have the maintenance or longevity concerns of rock holding up. So we wouldn't have any reservations about having it striped to indicate no parking. So that would alleviate that concern of the applicant of cars parking there or trucks parking there, while still allowing it to be used if they do need it in the future.
Also, one thing I understand that the ordinance to pave it came up because they're calling it a parking area, but it really isn't, because I wanted it to be a parking lot and we couldn't, and so it's not parking. So I'm not sure why the ordinance requiring that a parking lot be paved is applied to this easement.
I think it's because it's stated that access to the parking. It's parking or the access to the parking.
But I just think the way we're doing it, by doing it at a zero level, we're keeping access. And the truth is, they don't need, we proved, and Alex knows, we proved that, by K-railing it, that they don't need it, because they have a public roadway designed by the city that's 30 feet wide that 18-wheeler trucks can navigate. So it's a little bit, they shouldn't really be on there anyway. And I feel like by paving it, you're encouraging them to go over there. Not that I'm stopping them from going over there, but, why wouldn't they just want to stay on the road? This is 15 feet beyond the highway. And like I said, currently it's been dirt, always has been dirt, and they don't use it now. They've never used it. All right, and my architect has further comments. So anyway, anything else you guys for me? I'll take questions if you want. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to him. Okay. This is Michael Cayley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Cayley, the architect of the project. Richard covered a lot, but just to back up a little bit, the public alley that runs east along the south edge of our property is 30 feet wide. The Sherwin-Williams easement is 30 feet wide, but unfortunately, they're misaligned by 15 feet. So this is the public alley, this is the Sherwin-Williams. What we did is we put K-rail along the north edge of the public alley with the radius 2 different times to demonstrate to Sherwin-Williams. They drove their truck. The rails were up for 3 months. And on 2 different times, the plant manager said, yeah, the truck's getting fine. So what we're trying to do is make lemonade out of the unfortunate misalignment of the easement and the public alley. And the easement is 15 feet out of the alley. So Sherwin-Williams is perfectly fine. They have demonstrated to themselves that they can manage to get into their plant. They are talking about, they asked us for help to create a better driveway, another driveway on Industrial, because that's where they would prefer to bring their trucks in. And if they did that driveway, they said we would not bring any trucks along the south side. So we're stuck with the 15-foot gravel strip outside the alley. And we would like to treat that 15 feet. We're keeping it clear. Everything is flush, the concrete, but we are putting a demarcation line along the edge so the trucks continue to drive over it. But in that 15 feet, I used the word gravel, and we only found out a couple days ago that this staff wanted it paved. So I would like to amend that and suggest maybe use cobble rock larger. It would mitigate the likelihood of it spewing out and covering the, getting onto the public alley. There is a material called lock rock that you spray on the rock that binds it together that would mitigate that likelihood. The cobble would be drivable, and that's what the easement says we have to do, is make it accessible for truck traffic. The cobble would match the cobble rock that we're integrating throughout the site as part of our landscape. We would like to keep it gravel so rainwater could percolate back into the ground as opposed to running off and going into storm drain, I think, with the drought. And all the more water recharging the ground would be better. I take exception to the code section that staff's using to justify the paving. The code section says required improvements. All required parking areas shall have the following improvements. So the key word is parking area. This area is not a parking area. In fact, in the summary, staff refers it to as a access area. So they're 2 different things, I think. Rainwater. So, and the last thing about the mitigating the gravel coming out or the cobble. Currently, we're suggesting a flush, zero-high concrete curb to mark the 2 difference. We could maybe do a linear, like a speed bump, a concrete curb that just rolls up a little bit and then back down. Trucks could still drive over it, but it would help contain the gravel. I hope that the Planning Commission would consider letting us work with making it look aesthetically better We prefer not to have increase the asphalt 50% wider along the south side. It looks just to look a lot better as gravel. That's my, I try to do something good looking.
That have a
Thank you
response
for your time.
to that? Because then I have a question afterwards.
Any?
Staff would just note that if the planning commission decided to make a change to the condition, that they just make a finding that says it would not affect the health, safety, and welfare of residents nor neighboring property owners. It wouldn't be detrimental to neighboring property owners. And should they move forward with a modified proposal, we would recommend that staff reviews and approves the rock size as well as the measures used to stabilize the rock before final construction.
Could I add there was some discussion before about, you mentioned the driveway for Sherwin-Williams, and you mentioned the potential that you could keep working with Sherwin-Williams on getting rid of this easement and then possibly landscaping this area that we're talking about.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the gravel would allow. What we're hoping to do is eventually have them quit claim it. If it is gravel, we still meet the intent of the easement that they can drive over it. But the paved alley, the 30-foot, which is the same width as their easement, if they demonstrate to themselves for a year that they can actually stay on the driveway, because a trucker will probably try to stay on the alley, but if the rear swings wide, they could still do that. We're hoping eventually that it is quit claimed, and the gravel would be a lot easier to come out because the owner would much prefer to have it landscaped, that 15-foot strip, because we're already sort of committed with the building being outside of that area.
And that's kind of where it was headed, was maybe you could put a time frame on a condition.
Just one more thing. If we pave it, it's probably going to close the door on them ever quit claiming it, because they would enjoy the wider area, and we wouldn't have a chance of landscaping it in the future.
Because the question I had is, let's say we were agreeable to the idea of the gravel going in, but then in the future it became an issue with ruts, runoff, rocks going all over the place. Could it then be conditioned that if there are issues that it then would have to be paved? Versus, and I like your idea of the quit claim versus, I think landscaping would look much better there, personally. The way that it's drawn up in the plan, I don't think, at least looking at it, doesn't look horrible. But having dealt with rock and gravel, it does have, especially when it starts being driven on, it has a tendency to rut, has a tendency to move, and then you end up with a larger problem. So if that were to start becoming a problem, then I would, at that point, go, we probably should just asphalt this and just eliminate it. If you were unable to get your, let's say, like either the quit claim or potentially,
No, that's all reasonable, but I just make sure that everyone realizes there's no reason why they ever need to drive in the gravel.
Understand that.
I mean, it's a 30-foot wide road. The trucks, they don't drive on the dirt now. It just, that's part of the thing. I mean, part of the question is why wouldn't Sherwin-Williams give it up? But they were just too difficult to deal with. But I think it's kind of like his point. You see, the problem is if you pave the whole thing and you go back to them and you say, we want to make the road narrower, they won't be able to react to that. They'll just say, oh, no, maybe you'll make it too wide, and so forget about it. But if you go back to them and you say, hey, guys, you get to drive on the pavement you've always been driving on, and it's just you don't get to drive over the gravel that you never drove over, then that's something that they can understand. I don't even know we'll get it done at that point. Sherwin-Williams is not, just being such a big company, they're difficult to deal with. So not that they're being, against us. It's just they're big, and they have to get back to someone in Pennsylvania, and it's a difficult process.
Yeah. Well, that's where I was kind of saying going with kind of the option.
But yes, I mean, I'd be willing to pull it out if it was ever a problem. But I wouldn't just want like a deadline. You see, I think we can maintain it and we'll make it so it won't be a problem. But if it's a deadline, then I'd probably rather just pave it now rather than doing the gravel and then having to redo it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think we could, I would make a commitment to maintain it, and if there's a problem, I just don't think there will be a problem. But if there's a problem, yeah, we could
Clarification
You
on
know.
your deadline. What were your thoughts on the deadline, Chris?
Like if you didn't have a problem for 2 years, then we could.
I had one question on, this is a phased project, right? You're
Yes.
planning on phasing
Mhm.
it? So is the first phase the front building along Industrial?
It is.
And then second phase would be the
No,
second
no, no. Sorry, the other way around. The first building
Back
is
building.
the back one,
back building, and then
the,
the
second building would be the front one.
Okay.
Part of the reason for that is, originally I was going to do both the buildings at the same time, but after 2008, rents got below the point which I wanted to build an additional building to rent out to other people.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, this back building is owner occupied, so we don't care. We need the building, so we're going to build it and use it. I was also, we talked to staff about, the commissioners about possibly planting even temporary trees in the place where in the Phase 2 area, where the future building isn't being built and where the parking isn't going in, and putting in the stuff on the ground and also trees to make it sort of a nice promenade area. So as I said, it's owner occupied. It'll be our building there. We want it to look nice. I don't know how long it'll take for rents to come back, but whenever it does, I do plan to do Phase 2. But in the meantime, we would make it look attractive.
So just to be clear, the main reason that you guys are asking to do this as gravel instead of pavement to match the rest of it, it's I'm sure there's some costs involved, but what you had said is because you're afraid that like trucks or people may park on that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. It's a
Off to
lot
the
of
side.
reasons. One thing, I think the gravel will look better. For another thing, it becomes easier to demonstrate to Sherwin-Williams that they don't need it. But it also, at the same time, allows them to use it if they have to, because by law, it's their easement. I have to allow them to use it. So I just think the cobble with the stuff that makes it stay there is just a good compromise. I don't think the trucks will actually drive there, but it becomes very easy to demonstrate to Sherwin-Williams that, hey, this is where your easement is. This is where you guys drive. It's kind of clear you don't need it. Where if we pave the whole thing, they'll say, well, where's the cutoff? And I know it sounds easy, but dealing with a big company like that, you don't get down to one person who comes down and looks at it and can make a decision.
Ultimately, let's say they don't agree to quitclaim the easement over, and ultimately that stays where it is. You're already building your building.
Right.
Phase
And
one,
so,
you're not gonna get
So
more
I'm already around
footage.
it. But even then, I'd rather have the
Might
gravel.
get a couple more parking spaces if they released that easement, but if they didn't, wouldn't it be better to just bite the bullet and pave that and make it all uniform and not have to worry about gravel being kicked up and
It
chewed
would,
down
but I
over
just
time?
think, I know it sounds good, but you're now talking about it'll be a huge roadway that'll be a lot bigger than it needs to be, and with the striping, it'll look kind of odd. I don't think it'll look good. It'll look like a roadway with this huge piece of asphalt off on the side, and it won't be. It only continues for that one stretch. They go on the northern route behind the property, and they'll be back to the 30-foot road.
Oh, I
So-
know it sounds like it's not needed. And I
Yeah,
agree,
it's not right.
but
So I'm just
trying to
saying,
think what's
I
gonna
just
last
wanna-
the best,
I just
look
think-
best for the city, be best for you guys, customers coming. Because I'm trying to think. I
That's what
work
you're
in a
saying.
lot of shopping centers, and I'm trying to think of any situation where there's just a flat, no elevation plane from
It's unusual,
to,
and
to,
we've been.
to gravel and.
No, it's
and how
unusual,
that-
and we've been
how it would
struggling
hold
with it.
up
But
is my concern.
one of his ideas was the zero curb that would be in the ground, so you'd kind of see a white cement outline that would sort of demarcate the 30-foot wide road, and I think that would kind of clean it up and make it look better. And even though it'll be flat, you'll get a change in the look, and it'll look kind of like Xeriscape or I don't know, something different than just a giant paved plane, that's outside the striping of the roadway. And as soon as someone sees it, I know we can hash mark it, but the hash marks don't look that great, and no parking, that doesn't look that great. And truckers, come on, I can't have people there all the time telling them they can't park there, and they're going to.
Well, if it's gravel, I believe if it's gravel or paved, they're gonna.
They may do it either way,
they're
but
gonna
it's
park,
just
they might even park, even more on gravel. Hey, I'm kind of off the road,
Perhaps,
Might be
but
pulling
I
off
just
the
want to
side.
make it, it's more clear that they shouldn't be there if it's gravel, kind of. You know what I mean? It just, and it makes it less. Lots of times these guys don't want to take their truck off the pavement. So it's all a compromise. I'm in a way, by building the project out now, we're foregoing that extra square footage we could have potentially built if we extinguished the easement. So
When do you think you might hit phase 2? Are there plans for that, or is that market dictated?
That's totally market dictated. And, back in 2008, when we decided not to build that one, I would have thought by now, we would be onto it. So I just don't want to make any promises I can't live up to, but it would be market driven. But as I said, we plan to do landscaping, hydroseed and trees, native trees, all, same kind of stuff we have there now in those areas. So my feeling is you drive by and it won't look like a building's missing, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
If staff may interject, staff, if the planning commission found that the proposal would not be detrimental to the surrounding properties or the residents of the city, health, safety, and welfare, staff would not object to a rolled curb design with conditions, if approved by the planning commission, that staff would review the size of the rock, the stabilization measures, as well as a condition that stated if complaint-based, if there was complaints or visible witness of transient rocks or maintenance issues, that the area be paved, and if the easement ever be vacated and given back to the owner, that it be landscaped in accordance with Title 16. If those conditions were placed and the commission made the appropriate findings, staff would not object to their proposed design.
Is that agreeable?
Yes, absolutely. That'd be good. I think it's the best we could do with the situation.
Sounds like, for everyone, but it sounds like that might be something we might be heading towards. If it was, does the commission still feel that there some kind of time talked about, or
It would be deemed if it was a nuisance, if it became either by inspection, drive-by, somebody reporting it.
And we could also tie it to the second phase, that they may have to give a report to the commission on the status of that easement before they build phase 2.
An update of. Is that also agreeable?
Yeah.
Are we in public comment, or you haven't brought it yet? You haven't brought it back to the. There are my comments for that.
I have no more comments for the applicant.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to agenda item number 5? I'll go ahead and close public comment.
Considering there's been a great deal of dialogue regarding this subject, and staff regarding if I felt comfortable with this or that, I do not. And I think it would be beneficial for the full commission to deliberate over this matter. And with 3 commissioners, I don't feel comfortable that we've reached an agreement where I could feel comfortable that my associates who are not here, they will be in agreement. So I find, and this did take quite a bit of dialogue, so I find a continuation in order, because otherwise I don't feel comfortable moving forward.
All right, then a question back to staff. Based upon the dialogue and the potential clarifications of rolled curb, gravel, staff for items being used, material, would it be unreasonable to request a January meeting just for the clarification of all those particular items, because a lot of things came up?
That would be the determination of the planning commission. Staff would support it. Either way, they chose to move forward, either as conditioned or with modified conditions. Staff would support either decision made by the commission.
And then another point, if we were to move forward with it this evening, and let's say only 2 out of the 3 moving it forward, would it then be continued, or would it be go to, what would be the process? I'm sorry.
I have 2. First, Commissioner, you've kind of made it clear that you're not in favor of looking at some of those proposals that have been thrown around. And I was wondering, before we go to any kind of determination, vote, or continues, whatever happens, I'd like to hear your position as to why.
First of all, I think there's great value in having Mrs. Porter and Larry here. I would like to hear from them and with more dialogue, and I think it's very valuable to have the input of other commissioners. And this dialogue has been very extensive with just 3 commissioners, and what was brought up by the staff concerns me that I don't feel comfortable move forward. I think there are some plausible recommendations from the dialogue, but I think it would be more beneficial if the full commission listened to it.
So is your feeling is that without the commission here, it's just not fair? But I thought I heard you say that you were not in favor of the gravel, the rolled curb, the timeline. Is there specific reasons? Just because I'm trying to debate within myself, and I respect your opinion. Is there reasons that you would be personally against besides the other commissioners?
Well, I can't repeat verbatim the things that Alex mentioned, but when he says, if you feel comfortable with A, B, C, D, he ran off a list of things. I can have him repeat those things. And I felt, out of the majority of those things, I didn't feel comfortable with that if this was not paid. Is there an alternative? There possibly is an alternative. But with the full body, I think we can reach a great decision. Thank you.
And I also wanted to know, I saw the applicant raise his hand. I was wondering if maybe we could open the public hearing because we just started talking about a continuance, and I would like to hear if they're amicable to that, possibly for 30 days.
I can open the public hearing back up, please. Yes.
We wanted to know if the applicant was amicable to a continuance. Possibly.
If I may interject, if the planning commission required a rolled curb in that area, meaning that the easement would still be able to drive over and not be completely flat, but it would still not restrict the access of Sherwin-Williams, who has rights to that easement, the deviation requirements would not then be required, so we wouldn't have to make findings that it would not be detrimental to public safety and welfare or detrimental to neighboring property owners. Just wanted to throw that in there. So if the requirement also added a rolled curb that was still able to be driven over, based on the discussion here tonight, it would not require the deviation findings of health, safety, and welfare or detrimental, because it would not then be considered a driveway, quote unquote, or a part of the alley. It would still be an easement usable by who it's designated to, but it would not be part of the driveway. Then therefore would not be a deviation from Title 16.
But there was a proposal possibly thrown out about a continuance, right? I saw you raised your hand.
Which part? The continuance?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on. I mean, if you're at the point where you're on,
I mean, I feel like
if we get their commission here and the commission.
Yes, if that's the way they want to do it, I feel like
you're under a tight gun. I want to hear what.
Okay, no, actually, if they want to do a continuance, I would do that. I just felt it was pretty straightforward, and we were trying to give really clean alternatives. But if they want to, redo it, we would go for that.
Because that would allow for two additional commissioners to be here, plus allow adding in the rolled curb, which I think we would all be in agreement with. But having them here may.
So it'll just be the approval for the final part, right? Or is it the whole thing that we're continuing?
It would be the whole
whole
thing would be continued, but it would be the clarification on the gravel, the rolled curb, the material being used in that area, and it would be heard at our January.
All right, no, we're okay with that.
I asked that because if you said, geez, we're under financing deadline, we're under billing deadline, we got to get going. We've continued so many times. If you told me that you have to do that, I would fight to try to make a decision tonight.
Rob, I really appreciate the sensitivity to that, which you don't always get from city. So I really appreciate that. It costs more to drag it out longer, but we've waited this long. I want to get the project right, and so if it took another month, we'd be able to handle it.
And I might add, Mr. Chairman, with what Alex clarified, when we have that in writing, I read that. When we come back, it's more palatable to me and possibly to the other commissioners.
That way also all of us can possibly see this quote-unquote gravel or crushed rock or whatever it may be. Maybe staff would be able to give us just a little bit more depth on, well, it's this type of material. We feel comfortable with it. It's not going to be a big mess. Then I'd feel more comfortable as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Or anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment. bring it back to the commission.
I move that agenda item number 5 be continued to our January meeting.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Dew, a second by Vice Chair Kurth to continue this to the regular January meeting, which is actually scheduled for the 13th of January. I'm looking for a calendar. January 13th, 2016. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So it will be continued to the January regular meeting with Commissioner Huber and Commissioner Porter absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 6.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is just a request for the continuance of the climate action plan, and the city of Victorville is the applicant. We're requesting it be continued to January 13th, 2016 as well.
And then I requested a copy of climate action plan prior to that meeting.
Duly noted by our secretary, Tessa Tate, that Mr. Wilson's copy got ruined and he needs a fresh copy.
A copy of what?
Climate action plan.
Oh.
You want mine?
I don't want you to be without.
I already memorized it.
Oh, you did? All right, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to continue agenda item number 6 for January 13, 2015 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Chair Wilson, a second by Vice Chair Kurth to continue this to the January 13th regular meeting of the Planning Commission, providing a new copy of the Climate Action Plan to Chair Wilson. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so that will be continued to January 13th with Commissioner Porter and Commissioner Huber both absent.
Thank you. All right. In compliance with the Brown Act, it is necessary for the Planning Commission to make available time for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items of interest that fall within the Planning Commission's subject matter jurisdiction. Please limit the length of your comments to 3 minutes if anyone wishes to speak. And seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. And presentation reports by commission members. Commissioner Dew?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, we're at the end of the year. We're about to have Christmas and a New Year. But in spite of those joyous things that we look to, as recently as a few days, we experienced a tragedy in San Bernardino, which has been labeled a terrorist attack. I currently sit on the Sheriff Information Exchange Committee, and the day before the attack, I had indicated to the sheriff that it was increasingly important to share information between Homeland Security, FBI, state officials, as well as local government agencies. As it relates to the service of the Sheriff McMahon for the county of San Bernardino County, he's doing a good job. Obviously, there are some things that need to be addressed by local law enforcement who don't have the necessary expertise or equipment to fully manage a situation such as a terrorist attacks. And so I mourn for the people who lost their lives. In addition to the survivors, I have great empathy for them, that we can make our county safer, make our city safer, and make the world safer. I also like to commend Councilman Negretti for this appointment. It's been very beneficial from my point of view in adding to the commission another perspective, which I find all perspectives rewarding. And I want to thank the staff for their expertise in keeping us apprised of the latest information. It's very valuable, and it's something or somewhat reliable to the point where it aids us in making good executive decisions. Also, I'm grateful for many things, and this, for me, has been a great year, and I'm looking forward to next year.
particular. I'd just like to extend a happy holidays to everybody here and see you.
I have nothing, so close this meeting until our next scheduled meeting, January 13th, 2016. Merry Christmas.
Get your gift from Lionel.
Thank you.
Oh, right on.